Welcome to the tie breaks between Caro-Kann, the Grandmaster from Croatia, and Faustino Oro, aka Messi of Chess, the youngest international master in the world. This game happens in the World Cup in the first round, and the position you see on the board we're gonna just get in view, but before that I have to tell you about a line that was played here and why I made this video for you. It's because I'm playing this line myself. It's in Caro-Kann exchange variation after knight f3, knight c6, c3 was played. The point of that move is you want to get out with your queen every single time if they play bishop on f5 or bishop on g4. But when they go in the line of bishop g4, you go h3, you kick this bishop out of the way. Why? Because you don't want to allow him to go back after queen to b3, so he's completely out of the queen side. And after queen b3, queen d7, now knight e5. This is critical line because black needs to follow all forcing moves, takes, and now there is a threat of bishop b5 here. After a6, which is the only move, Caro-Kann played a move c4, on which one black has to respond with d takes c4 as the best idea according to the engine. The point after this, maybe Faustino got scared, generally speaking, that king is still in the middle and there is two lines open, which actually for humans, if you're not prepared, that's true. He is trying to play more human and he's looking to close, but according to preparation, according to theory, this is not a great idea. Why? Because now g4 is very powerful, kicking this bishop on g6 and going bishop g2 where there is a ton of pressure on this b7 pawn, which the only way to additionally protect that one is to play rook b8, another passive move. So Caro-Kann takes the initiative and now trying even to get his knight into the game, followed by knight e4, then f4, f5. Faustino decided to play e6 here. This is exactly the position on the board you see now. Now everything is synchronized. The plan now for white is very simple. He want to develop as quick as possible just because the king and generally king side feels a little bit cramped. The idea for white is knight e4 followed by some c5, knight e6 if possible, or just playing knight e4, bishop d2 and putting the rooks into the game. He jumped knight e4 and black is having now very much hard time proceeding with this position. According to engine, h5 and trying to open up this line for the rook sounds good. Playing bishop e7 will not find the square for the knight later. Moving this rook from the b line will create another weakness on b7 again. Generally speaking, black doesn't have here easy moves. I like this type of tie breaks and generally commenting other games. For now on my channel you can see only my games commenting when I play Blitz and Rapid, but if you like this type of content, let me know in the comments and I'll try to make more. Especially now when the World Cup is going on, this is a perfect time to create these tie breaks recaps. In the game was f5 and this is very critical mistake from Faustino. It's not a blunder, but it's very big positional mistake. So instead of developing minor pieces and trying to get something quick, he's pushing not any pawn, he's pushing f pawn. Literally, I'm telling to all my students, and generally you can hear that advice from any coach, any good content creator, do not move f pawn. Just make a deal with yourself, do not move f pawn at all in chess before your castles. Why? It's simply creating a lot of weaknesses. And any pawn move in the opening is just delaying your minor development. And why is this move mistake? It's because we're gonna simply take this pawn with a g-pawn. And if e-pawn takes, now there is massive trouble on this light square diagonal in the future, also followed by knight g5, bishop to d5, e6, just creating a ton of advantage and white will be soon winning. Also, if they take with bishop, which maybe Caro-Kann didn't like, is this looks very good on the first glance for black. He'll play g6 or maybe going something like bishop h6 later or bishop g7. But none of this works because dark squares and this pawn are dominating here, so he can simply continue bishop d2 and have normal game. In the game was e takes f6, which is miss by Grandmaster Caro-Kann. Why? It simply allows the knight to get out. So his passive piece on g8 is getting traded for the very good knight on e4. At least he's giving the counterplay, and the momentum of initiative is gone. Suddenly, black feels much more comfortable than in positions such as this. Here, this pawn is stone, literally restricts knight, bishop and doesn't allow black easy game. If they ever go something like 97 here, then we're gonna have 96 later. So black will be in a massive trouble. You can see also now from body language of Grandmaster Berkichante that he maybe regret his decision that he took and allowed this knight to get easily out in the game, because bishop e7 and castles are next few moves from black. He decided to take the knight on f6, g takes f6, ruin the structure, and then with castles. So the thing now, why engine is saying it's equal and even a little in the black's favor, it's because these pawns in the middle are connected future chain pawns. And something like h5 and opening up this diagonal could really benefit black in the long run. From the practical point of view, this still doesn't look scary for white because he's the one that is castling, he's the one that has better control of the game for now and minor piece development. He will go something like rook e1, maybe f4, f5 and trying to get more space in the middle and hit the king here. The best move according to engine is to go h5 and directly strike this pawn on g4. Of course, white will not take that one here, simply because it opens the rook. g5 could be a nice move for white. And now Faustino is thinking about what he should do in this position. We are seeing a little bit different angle from this game. This is not my footage, by the way. It's credits to FIDE and World Cup Goa. So I'm going to put all information inside my comment section and inside my description. This game is very intense because suddenly we have open fire on both king. Both kings are not safe too much, and the following sequence that will arise now, because the footage is gone between this moment and the next few moves. We have bishop c5, rook e1 happen, king f7 defending the pawn on e6. Now bishop f4 developing the bishop, and here Faustino played the move rook from b to d8. And this position arises on the board in front of you. Now Berkichante is thinking how to play. He also burned a lot of time, 5 minutes for Ante and 3 minutes, almost 3 minutes for Faustino. It's not easy game because black already consolidated and game is really equal. Can he take the pawn on b7? No, because this is a poison pawn. After queen takes, bishop takes, there is something like a5 and generally queen trade, and simplifying here benefits black. White will not have benefit of this pawn just because black is having more advantage in the middle together with these passed pawns. So Ante played here the move queen f3. What he wants with that one is to maybe go for bishop b5 or to push g5 and look forward of creating some X-ray to the king on f7, which is, of course, understandable idea. Tie breaks, time scramble. Anytime you can target their king and put some pressure on the king, you're making more chances for opponent to make mistakes. So now Faustino is dropping with the time on 2:30. He's also changing the posture, trying to be more closer to his pieces and connected. Now calculating the plan. Can he play king g7 and step away with a king? Maybe not, because there is g5 directly, like king g7 here is not good because of some g5, or even bishop h6 tactics, king takes and queen f6 followed by g5, bishop f3 checkmate ideas are not good scenario for black. So at this point, Faustino is burning a lot of time. Queen f3 is a really good practical move, showing that Berkichante is very experienced in the time scramble positions, generally very good blitz and rapid player. And now Faustino is 1 minute and 30 seconds. He will regret spending so much time in the opening. And finally, he decides to bring the rook to f8 and indirectly defend the pawn on f6, which is understandable move, totally understandable move. He wants to play king g7 and safely control his position on dark squares. Grandmaster decided to bring the rook to the middle and simply focus on the center. Black still can't play e5 just because of bishop captures e5 and then the pawn is pinned. So before that, he needs to get out of this pin. The most logical move is king g7. King g8 is a little bit odd because he needs to stay connected with h6, so that's why king g7. Now Faustino is almost under the minute, while Berkichante has 4 minutes on the clock. The good thing for Faustino, there is an increment of, I think, 10 seconds here. So he's not in a big time trouble. Generally, it's not a blitz game and won't have major problem with time. But on the end, when you play this dramatic and aggressive structure, which actually Berkichante showed, h4 going after the bishop, already puts a lot of pressure. But according to Engine, this is a mistake because now bishop c2 is very strong move. And if he goes something like this, then bishop b4 is winning the rook. And if he goes rook c1, then he's already directly stepping into some forks later. So this is not a great move, but Faustino always down at time. He's under 50 seconds. So h4 is another move that puts practical pressure. e5 is another good looking move from Faustino, but it's less good as bishop c2, just because now when he drops the bishop back on d2, he won't have the problems later with the d2 targets. So bishop d2, dropping back directly. He plays h6. It's a very passive move because any pawn move with so many pieces on the board is generally not a great deal. Now we can see zoomed board here is getting intense. 3 minutes for Ante and 23 seconds for Faustino. Now the problem, this pawn is on target. So if he somehow bring the queen and targets this pawn together in this battery, white will have domination. Also bishop d2 supports b4. That's another good looking move. Trying to kick this bishop out of the way from this diagonal. This is also uncomfortable for white. He decided to go for h5, directly attack the bishop on g6. And now there is two options, to go bishop h7 or to go bishop c2. He picked to go bishop c2, which is of course more logical move. It targets the rook with tempo, getting some time. Okay, rook c1 is the logical response. Now d3 is very good move because it will completely stuck. But on the other side, we lost control over the light squares. So he picked to go bishop h7 now, but this seems like a waste of time because now this rook is better staying here and supporting this line and pawn storm than being on d1. On d1 he's kind of stuck now because white is having good pawn chain in the middle, and that's actually what Grandmaster realized. b4 directly targets the bishop on c5. Now the only move that Engine recommends for black to stay equal and stay solid is to go bishop e7. Any other move, for example going on the other side, will restrict the bishop later. Of course, Master of Chess realized that bishop e7 is the only move in the position, and now what white should do is to start expanding his pawns on the queen side with c5, maybe a4, b5. So he started c5 and Faustino directly responded with rook a b8. Putting the generally rook behind a pawn to defend is always passive move, which you can see that even Bar already noticed that and makes it in the white's favor. Now at this point, white is still pressuring, of course, being better. He needs to find a way for breakthrough. How would be beautiful if white can play f4, right? That will be amazing move, trying to undermine this beautiful pawn chain. That's very good. Queen g3. The point, moving the queen, stepping out of the way for f4 break. Why? Because king is here, he's open. He's not safe like the king on g1. King on g1 is super safe. And now Faustino is 10 seconds on clock. He's in a very big trouble. There's a lot of tension. He played rook g8, trying to create some targets, but Engine didn't like that move. How Berkichante can punish this one? Actually, rook takes e5 is amazing sacrifice, because after pawn takes, queen takes e5, and if they go bishop f6 to cover, there is bishop takes h6. And after king takes h6, queen takes f6. On the other side, he can't go king f7 because of bishop d5 and white is completely winning. So if Ante spotted, he's automatically winning the game. He saw that move most probably, but he is 1 minute and 30 seconds. f4 is another very logical move that white can play here, the point of queen g3 generally. So he's seeing rook takes e5, but he's maybe a little bit skeptical about what if I miss something. He's 15 seconds and clock. Maybe I should go for the practical f4, which he does. So I completely understand his decision. f4 is also good, but according to engine, is less valuable for the further tactics, just because king will hide on h8. And now, the only move for white is g5. So if Brkic Ante didn't see that one coming earlier, he will be worse here because there is a pressure on g4. So g5, threatening to go something like g6, 4 seconds for Faustino, f takes g5. And now, which pawn to take? Do we take this one or this one? The whole point was actually to focus on the center and to close this rook. So that's why Grandmaster takes the other pawn. g5 was not sacrificed to open up the king, it's actually to close g-line so he can safely focus in the middle. Queen e6 and c6, brilliant converting from Grandmaster, trying to open up everything just because this king feels vulnerable on this diagonal. He needs that diagonal. 5 seconds, he takes. Now he takes with rook, targets the queen, queen takes on a2, and this already looks very risky for black. All angles are slowly opening. If he managed to go something like e5, followed by queen e5, and trying somehow to get this bishop on this diagonal, white will be completely winning. Brkic Ante decided to go bishop to c1 and defend the bishop that way. Also later, maybe this bishop will find the angle on this diagonal. 15 seconds for Faustino. He needs to do something. And he commits very big practical mistake. He opens the diagonal for Brkic Ante later. I understand this move. He wanna go for d2. That's nice threat, but is this actually going that direction? Who is faster in the attack? Who is faster in the threats? At this point, we are having both players on same time. So 21 second for Grandmaster and 21 second for Faustino. He even drops below. He needs to make the move e6. That's best move according to engine. The point is to go queen to e5 check next. And rook cannot cover because of take on b8. He played rook f8. Very big mistake by Faustino. It allows pieces to get connected. Rook c7 also targets the bishop on e7, provoking him to play with that piece. If he plays bishop to f6, there is directly something like e7 here and going forward. But he decided to play rook g7, defending the bishop, and that's actually a blunder. He completely missed one sequence. And the Grandmaster saw it. Sacrifice on e7. He needs to retake. Very tense situation. The point is after the check. If he goes here, there is bishop to b2. So he gave the check. Now rook g7 and bishop b2. Threat of checkmate is coming. Faustino is in a big trouble. Desperate. There is literally nothing here. Rook g8 and now e7. Very quick by Grandmaster, trying to promote a queen in the next move. Now Faustino is trying some counterplay with d2, but it's actually very straightforward. If you're looking for your calculational priorities, captures checks always comes first, so sacrifice the queen, queen takes, and now simply promoting the queen. Bishop to g8 back. Despite Ante having very decent game in terms of calculation and punishing Faustino over decisions, he needs a little bit more confidence in his moves. He needs to be very quick with this. He needs to show him that he's better. And he's better, of course, but he didn't prove him. takes, and after queen g6, Faustino resigned the game because checkmate is coming, and Berkichante won very crucial game with white pieces in none only than Caro-Kann line exchange variation that I recommend myself.